Welcome to the Cock and Balls opening. Quick disclaimer, this opening should only be played in Bullet, Blitz, or potentially Rapid. The game that I'm about to show you was played at 1700 ELO in a rated Rapid game. Normally the Cock and Balls opening is played as white, but today we're playing it as black. The game starts off with D3, to which I naturally respond with D5, crafting the shaft. After E3, I play E5, creating my full tip. And now after knight to D2, I actually was thinking that my opponent was going to play a miniature Cock and Balls, but to my surprise, the analysis bar on the side said that this is the cow opening. Now, the cow opening is an opening invented by a Norwegian chess player named Anna Kramling, or it could be from Sweden, actually, now that I think about it. But we all know that this is clearly the Cock and Balls opening. Now, after bishop to e6 now, developing my cock even further, my opponent creates a miniature Cock and Balls with knight to d2, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it. It is also known as the chode attack, but here after bishop to d6 creating half of my cock, my opponent plays pawn to g3, which is interesting. Makes a lot of sense, preparing to put this bishop along this diagonal, attacking my tip, castling, creating a ball on the king side, and perhaps striking in the center against my tip once again. I have no need to expand my girth pawns yet, so here I just continue with knight to e7. After bishop to g2, as we expected, our tip is being attacked. Here I play knight to d7, creating my full cock. All I need is some balls. After castles kingside creating their first ball, I created my first ball by castling kingside as well. And now all it took for me to do is bring a rook across the c8 and I'd have my full Cock and Balls, and I believe that my attack is a lot stronger than my opponent's attack. Look at this, bishop is completely undeveloped, rook is out of the game doing nothing. I mean, if you look at this position, clearly the Cock and Balls is completely winning. Here after pawn to f4, as we said, attacking our tip, knowing what's going to happen next, I played rook to c8, creating my full Cock and Balls. Now if you look at the magnificence of this cock, we're missing a little bit of girth here playing as black, but it's okay because it's an absolutely majestic penis if you ask me. Here our bishops can come in to attack this way, and after the girth pawns push, our queen can come to either f5 or to b6. Pretty strong squares for attacking this king, as you can see. But here my opponent plays pawn takes e5. Here I respond by knight takes e5, maintaining the structural integrity of my Cock and Balls for as long as possible, because that is how you play this opening. Anyways, after pawn to d4, here I continued on with knight back to d7. Once again, our Cock and Balls is intact, however we are missing a little bit of our tip. Anyways, after knight to f4 now, as I said, the Cock and Balls must remain intact until the time comes. Now the time has come for us to move our pieces into the attack. So, attacking with this bishop here and releasing my knight onto the chessboard. Here after pawn to b3, trying to move this bishop out into the game, perhaps this way or this way, I play bishop to f4. Attacking the queen makes a lot of sense, putting some pressure on this king side as well. However, they can block with this bishop move right here. Here after queen to e1, getting out of harm's way. Now my balls have moved to a better position. Now here I'm x-raying the queen, so if the knight moves and the pawn gets taken, this queen will come under fire by the rook. But anyways, pawn to c4 now, once again striking at my tip. I here decided to take the pawn on c4, and after the knight took back on c4, I just continued on. Now this b7 pawn is hanging, so that is something that we need to keep in mind. So bishop takes f4 first, forcing some trades. And after rook takes f4, knight to g6 now attacking the rook. Now obviously this bishop is defended by the knight, so it's perfectly fine here, guys. And after rook comes back to f1, trying not to trade. This pawn is still hanging, by the way. Here, pawn to c6. Defending the pawn inadvertently, because the bishop now no longer has access to the pawn. So here my opponent plays queen to c3. Obviously not the best moves being played by the engine here, guys. But as I said, the Cock and Balls opening must not be played at an engine level. It must be played at a casual level to trick your opponent in Bullet and Blitz and Rapid. Your opponent will likely not know what to do when faced with the Cock and Balls opening, so you need to use that to your advantage and not give them enough time to think about their moves. So here after knight to d5, now attacking the queen makes a lot of sense, putting some pressure on this pawn here, which is double attacked by the rook, but it's also defended by the queen and the knight. Here the bishop takes the knight, and here I missed a very critical move, which is pawn takes the bishop, because the queen would be hanging if the knight was to move, but instead I took with the queen, trying to set up some attack on the king side here, eyeing up the king, as was the original intention. Here, bishop to a3 now, finally developing this bishop along the long black diagonal. Here, bishop to h3, attacking the rook and setting up a checkmate of some sort. Of course, you can refute it with this rook to f2, which is exactly what my opponent does. Here, queen to g5 now, putting some pressure on the king side once again. Here, knight to d6, attacking both of my rooks. And after rook takes e3, attacking the queen, I am saving my rooks from being forked here, and I'm also putting pressure on this queen. All calculated, don't worry guys. After queen to d2, now rook to d8, putting pressure on this knight. However, it is still defended by the bishop, in case you were wondering. And after knight takes f7, which is a very interesting move, I'm not sure what my opponent was going for. Here I found a brilliant move using one of my balls. I would like you guys to pause the video and try and find it for yourself before I show you. Rook takes g3, sacrificing the rook after the pawn takes the rook. Here I played queen takes g3, makes a lot of sense, forcing the king to this awkward square. And after king to h1, here I played a blunder, which was rook to e8. Now, rook to e8 was problematic. The reason why bishop goes back here is because the queen can come into this diagonal and start checking the king. My opponent missed that it was a blunder and played rook to g1, which makes a lot of sense, trying to kick away this queen here, but it allows me to play queen h4, which is the best engine move once again. And this sets up a discovery check. Of course, the rook can block still, but here my opponent plays it incorrectly once again and plays rook to h2, trying to put his rook along here, trying to stop my bishop from moving. But instead, I played queen to e4 check, which gets my queen away from the x-ray of this rook here and also puts the king in check, forcing one of these to block because the king has no other squares, to which I'll be taking back with the bishop next. After rook h to g2, bishop takes g2 with check, of course, and now this knight is hanging, and whatever you take this with, it'll be pinned by my queen. Here, after rook takes g2, the pawn is still pinned, and instead of taking the knight here, I played queen h4 check, forcing either the king to move out of the way, which would result in this rook to e1 check, which would force the queen to take. My opponent plays rook to h2, which was by far not the best move in that position. Here, rook to e1 check anyways, regardless. The queen cannot take because it would be losing, it would be hanging itself with check once again. Here, king to g2, and it makes a lot of sense now, trying to get out of harm's way and not forcing a queen trade preemptively. Here I started activating my knight, a knight to f4 check, and here the king moves out of the way once again. At this point, I played rook to f1 check, trying to defend my knight twice and also putting the king into check. King to e4 and now rook to e1. I made a little bit of a mistake here, allowing the king to escape along this way or this way, potentially forcing a draw. And his position gets a little bit wild after king to f3, kind of suggesting maybe that this is a draw. I'm actually completely winning here. After rook to f1 check, playing some moves, allowing myself to think a little bit. King to e4 once again, and we don't take a draw here, guys. Here I played knight to h3, which was a massive mistake, which actually equalized the position completely. King to d3 now, and now knight to f2 with check, which once again was a complete blunder, because it actually equalized the position once more. Here I was supposed to take the knight and continue my attack afterwards. Here, after rook takes f2, it's perfectly fine because the queen takes on f2, queen takes, rook takes, and now this knight is hanging, and a few more moves get played, and this game actually concludes, but I'll show you guys how it played out. Here I take the pawn on a2, makes a lot of sense, attacking the bishop, and now I've got this pretty interesting, I believe it's a material advantage. It's two pieces versus a rook, and I'm also up 3 whole pawns here, which my opponent will have to worry about later on. The bishop drops back, attacking my pieces. Here I kick the bishop away. Bishop drops back once again. And I probably should touch up on my endgames here, but guys, I thwarted my opponent out of the opening straight away by playing the cock and balls. So maybe I don't even need to work on my endgames, because once you play the Drake opening, the cock and balls opening, whatever you want to call it, the endgames become absolutely obsolete. You are guaranteed to win every game you play. Results may vary. Anyways, after knight takes c6, makes a lot of sense, taking the free pawn. Here, I take back the pawn, and we go into a trade of pawns completely. I don't have this rook move in order to defend my pawn here because the bishop is actually defending. So here I played rook back to b1, makes a lot of sense, trying to put some pressure on the position. Here I played h5, and I don't know how my opponent is going to stop this pawn from getting all the way to the end of the board without losing one of his pieces and trying to stop it. So knight to c6, trying to move his pieces all the way across to stop my pawn. I just continued edging a little bit. Here, after the knight gave me check, I moved the king. The knight is attacking my pawn now, so I edge a little bit more. And after the bishop comes to e5, there is a problem in this position, and that is pawn to g6. Now, the engine doesn't completely agree that this is the best move, but here I kick the knight away, which is crucial for me later on. And now I can move my king further into the position without being blocked in by the knight and the bishop. Here some more moves get played, putting the king into check and advancing my other pawn here. Of course, I'm more focused on my edge pawn because it's a lot harder to stop for my opponent, and also the queenie square is a light square similar to this, but the knight can also always cover these squares under the defense of the bishop if you jump to here. So after the knight drops back to f2, here my opponent has made a crucial error and allowed me to push the pawn, abandoning my edging completely. So after the knight takes, completely giving up the game with pawn to b3, and the knight drops back, giving me a check. I move my king out of harm's way, and now my opponent plays this interesting knight to d3, which looks like it stops the pawn. However, here I sacrifice the rook once again, forcing the knight to take. Otherwise, I promote to a queen on the next move, and after the knight takes, I promote to a queen anyways. And here some boring moves get played out. I eventually won the bishop. There was really nothing for my opponent to do here. I'm probably playing this completely wrong. He had no way of stopping me from winning the game there. There's a lot of chances you'll stalemate your opponents in these positions, but here I know exactly what to do, and that's cut the king off, force him to the edge of the board, and after I took the pawn on d6, my opponent resigned the game. So therefore, there you have it. The cock and balls opening prevails over the cow opening. And it is only a matter of time before chess.com recognizes this opening as an official opening. Perhaps other chess websites would recognize it before chess.com does. However, being a partner of chess.com, it will be an incredible opportunity to see the cock and balls opening live on stage where it needs to be, on the world stage of, you know what I mean. So anyways, guys, if you are looking for an opening to get you past the 1700 ELO range like I did recently, I reached 1800. Try playing the cock and balls opening, a combination of this, the edging attack, the compensation variation, the chode gambit. All of these openings I've covered on my channel. I think you guys should check them out if you want to learn the highest quality chess that you possibly can learn in this day and age. But anyways, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.